Hello, welcome to the enchanted kingdom of Hermione. We're up here in the turret of pleasure, somewhat darkened. Today, I think we're trying new things in the lights. I don't know what I'm doing. Here to talk about a great artist who left us recently, Mr. Sylvester Stewart, aka Sly Stone. He of the Sly and the Family Stone band, who were, in my humble opinion, one of the most important popular music combos in the history of American music. And I sort of look at Sly's career in total, and I think of the high points, which are incandescent. I mean, it's really hard to overstate just how groundbreaking, innovative, everything his stuff was when he was really on. Really on. But he was only really on for a surprisingly short amount of time. However, that short period of time has cemented his legacy. Nobody with a pop music collection of any worth doesn't have any Sly Stone in it. He broke ground in so many different ways. He formed the first interracial, multi-gender, or whatever you want to call it, men and women, blacks and whites, in the same band, playing feel-good music, dance to the music. Sly was a very talented fellow. He was a DJ at first, could play a lot of instruments, grew up in a musical family, and like many young black men of the time, he grew up in San Francisco, which was pretty liberal. And but you know, of course, he, like everybody in those days, he suffered from racism. But he kind of sloughed it off to a certain point, and he just sort of was determined to do what he thought he should do. And so at first he got a gig as a radio DJ, and he became very popular at that. Found out he kind of had a, whatever, gift for the gab, I suppose. And then he started playing, at first fairly casually, with a group of people that included his sister and his brother, and a couple of white guys, and a pretty funky black bass player. And they formed a band. And at first he was Sylvester Stewart, of course. And when he got his radio gig, they said, "You need a nickname. What are you going to call you? Got a Sly. Let's call you Sly." And at one point he mentions in his book, somebody said he should call himself Sly Sloan. And Sly said, "I can't even pronounce that." But from that came Sly Stone. And Sly and the Family Stone, of course, followed. I'm getting a lot of this, I should point out. This is fairly recent. Came out, I think, last year or the year before. And I bought it, of course, when it came out. I was a little put off at first, mostly because of Questlove. Questlove has to insert himself into everything. And I have nothing really against Questlove, but this book is not about Questlove, but Questlove has the big quote on the back. I suspect he put this out. And, you know, good for him. That's great. And at first I thought it was a little bit, I don't know. It was awfully after the fact. Now, Sly, if indeed this is Sly with Ben Greenman, so who knows how much of this is Sly speaking directly to you, but it seems genuine enough. And Sly seems like a really, really nice guy. Now, like I say, I was a little put off because, you know, you expect, if you get into the grit of the Sly Stone story, you're getting into some scary territory. And I liken this book to Joe Keithley from DOA's book, where I know a few of the gritty details of DOA. Needless to say, none of these are in the book because, you know, I think Joe said, "Hey, look, my kid's got to read this." And, you know, Sly's kids have to read this too. Having said that, if you know enough of the story, particularly of the early 70s, you'll know that when Ike Turner enters the picture, things are getting dark. Dark, baby. So he's honest. And that's all I can ask. He's honest. He doesn't deny he did. It's not like Lenny Bruce's autobiography where he's just, it's as funny as the man himself because it's so completely inaccurate. This is accurate. It tells you what's going on. It told me a few details I needed to know, which I thought was great. It told me about the Temptations record that he helped with, but that you can't find any credits on it because, he doesn't mention why, but I suspect it was because the IRS wanted several $1 million of them that he didn't have, and he wanted to make a paycheck. So I think Jim Ford is all over that record. I don't think Jim Ford had anything to do with that record. I think Jim took the writing credit, gave the money to Sly. There you go. But that's a whole different story. Sly, when he formed his band, now here's the thing about Sly, the myth gets in the way of the story and the truth. The truth of it is, Sly was playing around San Francisco. He caught the eye of a guy named, and why can't I remember his name? David Kaperlink, is it? Or Epic A&R guy for CBS. And it'll probably say on one of these. He proceeded to sign them to CBS in the early days of the glory years under Clive Davis. And it's not going to say here, is it? And they proceeded to start, forming their identity, if you will. And first record from this union, and I don't think this is the original cover, but now what I've done is I've pulled out my Sly Stone box set, which I bought many years ago when A&B Sound went under. And this is, when did they do these? They basically released all the albums individually with bonus tracks in 2007. Wow, that was a while ago. Now, these are great reissues. They are very true to the original issues. Oh, produced by Sly Stone. So what's his name didn't produce any of those records. Right from the first record, Sly was the producer. And well, he should be. Now, what people don't really like to tell you is that the first few records by Sly weren't really all that. They were okay, right? But they're not what we remember him for. And this first record kind of stiffed in a way. It announced a new thing for sure. Maybe it was a bit too new. This would have been 1967. Okay, so whether or not the world was ready for a band that looked like this, it was going to take something to, have it happen. And that something happened. Whoops, these are not in order. My God, what is wrong with me? And it was, of course, the song Dance to the Music, for which this album is named. And this has a version of Higher on it, but it's not really, I don't think it's really I Want to Take You Higher. That came later. So this is the second album. It's a lot like the first album, except it has Dance to the Music. And that's a big deal, because Dance to the Music was a big hit. And that led up to the mature third album, Life, which kind of surprisingly didn't, was there any hits on this? I don't think there were any big hits on this one. But this is a pretty good record. And again, they're finding their form. Plastic Jim is on this, I remember. Dynamite. Now, these all have bonus tracks. They're for barrel scrapers. Bonus on the first album, Underdog single version. Let me hear it from you. Single version. You Better Help Yourself instrumental. That's pretty good, I remember. Second album has a lot. Single version of Dance to the Music. Unissued single version of Higher. A song called Soul Clappin'. A song called We Love All. Can't Turn You Loose. That's not bad. Never Do Your Woman Wrong. Instrumental. There seems to be always an instrumental on some of these. The third record has Dynamite single version. 7 More Days. Extra song. Pressure. Extra song. Sorrow instrumental. Another instrumental. There you go. Now these 3 records, they were really the build-up for me, for Sly. And as a kid, and I was like 9, I guess, 8 or 9, when these records started hitting the airwaves, and they hit the airwaves. Well, Dance to the Music, yeah. Okay, but the moment. Now I keep talking about the moment. Well, the moment for Sly was when his whole thing coalesced. Sly's whole thing was, we're all the same. We got to get together. Different strokes for different folks. And that was all summed up in his song Everyday People, which is possibly the one song that defines the man more than any. His message was harmony. Don't worry if somebody's a black man or a white man. Don't worry if somebody's a man or a woman. Just, I am no better and neither are you. There's so many lyrics in this are almost like nursery rhymes now. And not only that, but it also has Stand, it has, I Want to Take You Higher, which turned into basically an anthem and could have been, was pretty badly misconstrued after a while. And You Can Make It If You Try, which was a hit. This was, and here's the best part, it's an 8-song album. It's absolutely definitive, and yet there's a 12-minute time waster instrumental in the middle called, funnily enough, Sex Machine. But what an instrumental! It's terrific. It's the band just jamming, Sly doing some very obscene sounding things on a harmonica, and it's as funky as all get out. Larry Graham on bass really helped. He invented slap bass, basically invented it. The roles of the band. The drummer was not a black guy. It was a white guy. The sax player was a white guy. The trumpet player was a black woman. All the roles were reversed and backwards and whatnot. The psychedelic lead guitarist wasn't a white guy. He was a black guy. And so they were not what everybody kind of expected. This record is an A+. There's nothing I cannot say good about this. What are the bonus tracks on this one? Stand, single version, great. Want to Take You Higher, single version, great. You Can Make It If You Try, unissued single version, sure. Soul Clappin' 2, which, is that on another one somewhere? And then My Brain / Zigzag instrumental. And I do not remember if that's great or not. Some of these are better than others. If you get, I think these all got released individually. They came out in this box. Now this box is problematic because it's not all of Sly's songs that are worth owning came out on albums. Well, they kind of didn't really think about that when they put this box. Was basically, let's put all the records out and then we'll put them in a box set and put a sticker on it. So it's, as far as that goes, it's a little bit slovenly. Okay, now, but then, and then of course it's not in the box. This is when Sly became a huge star. This is when, basically, and I'll bet it's not on any of these records, this is when, as Sly would say, everybody is a star. It's on here, isn't it? Yeah. So, this came out in the intern. Sly started playing concerts for mind-bending amounts of money. They hit the road hard. They partied hard. Sly discovered cocaine. Well, he discovered it before this, but Sly discovered how much he enjoyed excess, let's just say. This record came out. It has Hot Fun in the Summertime on it. It has Everybody Is a Star on it. I forget what else is on it. Now, needless to say, this is not really Sly and the Family Stone's greatest hits because, of course, they put stuff out after this that would qualify. Certainly Milady could be displaced. And what else on here? Life and Fun, maybe, could be displaced. And they could be displaced by the singles from, some people call it the difficult, fifth album? The difficult fifth album. And this is, now, most people will tell you, this is Sly's main achievement in his career. It's very difficult to listen to in parts. It is the sound of somebody who is absolutely going out of his mind on drugs and excess and just, paranoia and insanity. And despite all that, it has two giant hit singles on it. Family Affair, which is one of his biggest singles ever, and Running Away. Now, the interesting thing about those singles, as opposed to everything else he did that was a hit, was the benign positivity of his message is now kind of tempered. Family Affairs kind of alludes to trouble and problems. Running Away, I mean, it's about running away, right? Running away to get away. And you get the deep cuts on this record are deep. They're thank you for, and there was Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again. That's another song I forgot to mention, which I don't think was on an album either. Well, he redoes it here, Thank You for Talking to Me, Africa, which is kind of like the Revolution on the White Album by the Beatles. It's slow. It's actually dead on its feet. They sound really stoned. Spaced Cowboy. This was the album where he discovered the rhythm ace drum machine. By this point, everybody had gotten sick of Sly and his antics. Or not everybody, but Larry Graham had essentially quit the band by this point. Greg Errico, the drummer, quit the band. Hence the drum machine. And the rest of the band kind of came in and out as were required for overdubbing. Like the girls were brought in for their parts. And but this is one of those records where, and rock and roll is full of these characters. They go over the edge. They completely lose it. And just as they're entering the void almost, they make just the most amazing piece of work. And then it almost inevitably, they just go so far to the void they can't get back up. And I give you Syd Barrett from Pink Floyd. After the Magic Weekend where he kind of, I don't know what happened, but something happened in July of '67, everything he did after that was different. And it was like genius, but it was almost like he didn't really know what he was doing anymore. He was just so damaged. And yet the memory muscle memory of his brain created things like Vegetable Man, Scream Thy Last Scream, Jug Band Blues, stuff like that. And, stuff that was never going to be hit singles. They recorded Vegetable Man to be a single, and the label just went, "Are you kidding? No way." Same thing with this. Sly went into this zone of paranoia. He'd hole himself up in his house. He'd have bodyguards with guns. And him and guys like Jimmy Ford, they'd sit there and just snort mountains of cocaine and just, like, the book hints at this. He doesn't hide it. And I got to give him credit, because had he decided to elaborate on this era, it would make some kind of wild book. But like I say, his kids got to read it. So, yeah, this comes out. Everybody, and it took forever to come out. Clive was constantly bugging him. Sly, we need a record. Come on. Yeah, man, it's okay. There's a memorable part of Clive's book about Columbia Records, his time at Columbia, where he describes a meeting with Sly Stone about this record that's got to be read. If I had it really handy, I'd read it to you. So this comes out. The Family Stone essentially blows up. Sly doesn't even notice. He's too busy losing his fucking mind. And so time passes. Meanwhile, he's got a contract. And so he kind of, I don't know how you describe it. What year would this be now? This is, wow. Okay, now, Riot is, I think, 1970, isn't it? 71. Riot is 71. So this came out in 73. New drummer, basically new band. Not really the Family Stone. I think the two girls are still with him. This is a step back for sure. The opening song, In Time, is one of the funkiest songs with one of the greatest clavinet lines you'll ever hear in your life. It's also got Que Sera Sera on it, which is weird. Now, he had met Doris Day and knew her and thought she was a really nice lady. And I'm not sure if that had much to do with him doing this song, but it's actually a very interesting take on it, and he's wasted. I mean, come on, folks. So here, what is the bonus track? Oh, by the way, bonus tracks on There's a Riot Going On are the single version of Running Away, great, and then 3 quote instrumentals. My Gorilla Is My Butler, okay. Do You Know What, okay, and one called That's Pretty Clean. Now, legend has it that there are hours of stuff like these 3 tracks. These are simply the drum ace going, Sly noodling away on whatever instruments at hand, and just who knows what they're doing with the other hand, probably, doing lines. But it's interesting. It's not compelling. You don't need it. I'd love to hear them all just once, because it would be very interesting to hear that what was distilled down into There's a Riot Going On, because I'm sure it's a giant amount of material. He had installed a studio in his house, which was very unusual in 1971. I do believe CBS even assigned an engineer to work there. Can you imagine getting that assignment? Bill, yeah. Can you go over to this address here? Yeah, Mr. Stewart needs an engineer. Well, what studio is this? It's not. It's his attic. I see. Bill, yeah. Have you ever smoked marijuana before? No. Okay, just asking. Anyway, this is different. Bonus tracks, Let Me Have It All, alternate mix, Frisky, alternate mix, Skin I'm In, alternate mix, Keep on Dancing, alternate mix, Babies Making Babies, alternate mix, which tells me that there were no extra tracks done in this session. This probably took a long time to make. Easy rhythms that balance funk and pop. It is a bit of a it's like Sly Light. Not bad. I don't mind it. It's a pretty damn good record. But again, you are not going to change the world with this record. The last one in the box, which is curious because he did make more than these for CBS, is Small Talk. And Small Talk is kind of the really when he falls off the edge. This is 74. You'll notice his wife and child on the cover. He got married at Madison Square Gardens. I wonder if he remembered it. There's a thing called Positive Instrumental is the bonus track here. So there's one. But he does a song called Loose Booty. This is a long time after Funkadelic did it. I don't even remember who plays on this. Cynthia seems to be on it. Rose seems to be on it. This is actually kind of a lousy record. There's nothing to commend it. I bought it years ago in quadraphonic. Look at this. I can't get the booklet out because I don't know why. That's curious. CBS build quality. It shows you what I know. I have not had this out before, perhaps. I wonder if some glue is holding it in. Anyway, like I say, you don't... Oh, there we go. Wow. It was in fact glued onto the... Okay, well, build quality. That means I've never opened this. Oh, the Emperor's here. Anyways, so the box set ends with a belly flop. It's not very good. Not even in quad. Hey, bud. We're being very, very nice to the Emperor. He got his paw stuck in a door, which was traumatic, wasn't it? Yeah. Emperor Winston is going to settle himself down here. Now, really after this, he did a record called, what was it called again? Back on the Right, no, Heard You Missed Me. Well, I'm back. And I had this idiotic picture of him on the cover looking like a one-man band. It's lame. It's not very good. It's one of those, hey, he's back from the edge of the abyss. And it's just going through the motions. And finally, Epic dropped him. But not before, and I don't have it here or I'd show it to you, not before they did a disco remix album during the disco era. Because, as they say, Sly invented disco. They could even be right. So they put out, what was it called, 10 Years Too Soon. This is both an appalling disaster and a real hoot. Because it's got terrible syndromes in it. What's the guy's name? Bob Luongo? Never trust anybody named Luongo. It's hard to find now. I found it in a Was it a thrift store? Anyway, not worth any kind of money, but still, it's definitely for, if you're a fan, you need to own it. Let's put it that way. But if you're a fan, you need to own, Heard You Missed Me While I'm Back. He signed with Warner Brothers after that, and he did Back on the Right Track. Again, not a bad record, just nothing new. And by at this point, he was not an innovator in any stretch of the imagination. He was actually kind of tagging along. And around this point, he did that Temptations record, which is, quite frankly, bloody awful. And I do believe that was not only him, but I think Rose and Cynthia are on it. I think that edition of the Family Stone is on it. To no avail. It's a crap record. And then he kind of just didn't do much. And the only things he did after about 1974, 74, 75 maybe, 78, he did some cameos on some George Clinton records. He's on 2 tracks of The Electric Spanking of War Babies by Funkadelic, which is the last Warner Brothers Funkadelic record. And by God, they are really fun. And you can just tell they are just, good God, I don't even want to think about the scenes in the studio. At one point, they're so wasted that they do a song called Funk Gets Stronger, and it's like this great, just killer, break your spine kind of funk beat, and they're chanting away, and it just fades out, and you can just tell they're all completely destroyed. And it fades back in, and by this point, they've changed it into She Loves You, yeah, yeah, yeah. Same beat, same bass line, but, and of course, then they found out, oh shit, somebody else owns the copyright to that. So they actually had to credit Lennon McCartney for this 30-second stoned out, fade out. It's the old fade out, fade in, fade out thing. But that's great. And then he's also on a couple of the Funkadelic 3 record set. What's it called again? Oh, why can't I remember the name of it? The one that Clinton put out a couple of years ago. And Sly's on a few of those. And they're great. In the Car. Boy, that's a good song. So he, with kindred spirits and I guess the right drugs, he could kind of get it up one more once. But that's really about it. And I consider, the last 50 years of Sly Stone's life the long goodbye. He was a flashbulb. He burned so hot. What can you just the intensity of There's a Riot Going On is hard to really fathom. He was never once militant about, being black and being proud. That was beneath him. And he realized you weren't going to get anywhere with that. And that was his genius. His arranging skills, his musical ability was formidable. And he had a knack for the slogan. Like I say, some of these they're almost like nursery rhymes now. I still say, and so on, and shooby-dooby-dooby, Okay, well, the only other thing I'm going to point out here is, if you remember a previous video, I talked about very bad idea tribute records, and we discussed the Ramones one by Rob Zombie, which is just an abomination. This is not an abomination. This is actually pretty damn good. Now, it helps that most of these folks are black artists, and they're completely in love with the work of Sly. Now, who's on this? will.i.am, who's already sort of fading into the past. Maroon 5, likewise. The Roots, of course, Questlove's on this. Scar, who do not ring a bell. John Legend and Joss Stone. Joss Stone is on both this and the Ramones thing, I think. Big Boy featuring Sleepy Brown, and I confess a lot of these names are not familiar to me, but you know who is? Buddy freaking Guy. That's a familiar name, and that song is great. And I actually enjoyed Moby does a song. Buddy Guy and John Mayer sing a simple song with Chuck D. D'Angelo and Isaac Hayes. And of course, I want to take you higher with Steven Tyler with Robert Randolph. Whose idea was this? Jerry Goldstein. Jerry Goldstein. Okay, well, he knows a thing or two about making a record sell. Now it says produced by Sylvester Stewart. Now, how much involvement Sly had with this is open to interpretation. I'm willing to bet it wasn't very much. Clive Davis gets a thanks in here. Okay. From Epic, and he was persona non grata forever there. It's not bad. If I found it at the thrift store, I was like, hey, sure. And it's one of these things, the strength of the music endures the desperate attempts to, you know, hook him up with stars, none of whom could hold his jaw. Well, maybe Buddy Guy, but the rest of this crowd are like, should bow their head in thanks that they were allowed to participate. So there you go. Rest in peace, Sly Stone. From what I understand, things kind of got resolved in his retirement. He got some money. He was able to live relatively comfortably. And boy, if anybody deserves it. I mean, the man made some errors in judgment, for sure, when stardom was basically thrust upon him quite suddenly. But he always had a good heart, I think. And that's really important. The guy didn't have a mean bone in his body, I don't think. And he really tried to convey that in his music. Let's all just get along. And you know, that'll never go out of style. So, here's to a happy eternity to Sly Stone. That's about all I can say in that thing. I'm going to listen to the whole box all the way through again. A friend of mine was telling me, no, wait a second. Life has lots of great songs on it. So, okay, I'll bite. Thanks for watching ever so much. And don't forget to like it and subscribe it and all the other things. And we'll try to get back at you with things that don't involve people dying. But, yeah. Take it easy and we'll talk to you later.